Hey folks, and welcome to
Voices of Starcraft,
your Starcraft 2 community podcast. Here we're going to be going over all relevant news in the Starcraft 2 world. We'll be covering things from patch notes, how they affect changes in the metagame for your games at home, any play that you might have, as well as local tournament or recent tournament news, and hot topics from you guys in the community. Basically, we're going to be answering your questions, anything you were wondering, any questions that you have. So let's just hop right into it. All right, David, so why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the folks at home?
Hey guys, I'm Vitensby from the Starcraft 2 Dudes channel over on YouTube. On my channel, I like to talk about 3 different video series I have going on. We have, of course, the main focus of the channel is Starcraft 2. It's mostly Zerg strategy guides, analysis, talking about, lots of things that have to do with Zerg. Basically, everything Zerg is on my channel. And if you're a Terran or Protoss player, a lot of Terran and Protoss players come to my channel and they like to see what the other guys are up to. So feel free to check it out if you like that. Also, if you like World of Warcraft, I do have gold making guides up on my channel. And recently I've started a series on Minecraft. It's mining and building guides.
Very good, very good. And why don't you introduce yourself to everyone at home as well, Bobby?
All right, well, I am Trebis from SC2 Noob School. Obviously, my channel is youtube.com/SC2 Noob School, and basically what I focus on is just teaching players a lot of the fundamentals to the game, and I try to work on just kind of encapsulating everything as much as possible, so just taking like one concept and really putting it underneath the microscope. I do a lot of stuff inside like unit tester programs, so we can really just focus on one aspect of the game and really dive into it. So yeah, I'm really excited to be on this podcast called Voices of Starcraft. Yeah, we spent a lot of time working on that name, so I just want to say it as often as possible. Man, what a great name, a podcast, to be Voices of Starcraft.
I hate you, by the way. All right, and as for myself, I am Dennis Force Duhamel. You can see my content at forcestrategygaming.com, and there's actually going to be a link to my separate YouTube channels. We have a StarCraft 2 coverage. We're also moving into Diablo 3 coverage as the beta ramps up there. But basically, in the StarCraft 2 channel, I go over strategies. I kind of break down strategies of high-level diamond and professional players, and kind of try to simplify it and make it easy and understandable for you guys there. All right, so let's just jump into things today. We have a few big topics that we wanted to mention. First and foremost is the GSL. Now, I know you had some information for us on that, Bobby. You want to start things off?
Yeah, well, okay. I don't know how much everyone out there has been following the GSL, but it's basically, the biggest StarCraft tournament in the world in Korea, and I at least want to mention the qualifiers just happened. The actual tournament is going to start Monday, where I think they're doing something. They're casting like 11 games in a day or something. I don't know. It's ridiculous. Yeah. But we did get some foreigners actually qualifying. So we've got E.G. Idra, obviously living in Korea right now. He did qualify. We also have Sen, who I think is from like Taiwan, and Liquid Ret, who Liquid Ret just arrived in Korea from where was he from? I think he's from Amsterdam. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, he just arrived in the OGS TL house. And then we also got Heypro playing Zerg, Liquid Heypro.
Very cool. And when's the date for that? When's that going to be taking place?
The date itself, I don't know. It's Monday the 22nd for us, although it's Korean time, so not sure when that's actually going to be.
The actual start date, but it is going to be on Monday the 22nd. We're going to be seeing the GSL.
That's when I'll be at work, like desperately trying to not go find the VODs on my computer and get myself fired. That's when I'll be doing that. So
yeah, very cool, very cool.
And if you guys are a big fan of the StarCraft 1 pro gamer scene, we do have some big names coming into this. From there, we have July, aka July Zerg. You may know him. Also, of course, the man himself, Slayer's Boxer. Just thrown out 2 big names. Whoa, yeah. Thrown out 2 big names from the StarCraft. Pretty much household names, I would say. StarCraft 1.
Yeah, no, certainly. I mean, anyone who was a big fan of StarCraft 1 certainly knows Slayer Boxer. You can't really. You must have had your head in the sand if you were around in StarCraft 1 and hadn't heard about him. Now, do we have any ideas as to predictions on the outcome? Is there any favorites at the moment? What about you guys? What do you think, Bobby? Have any favorites for this tournament? Who you think's going to win?
I don't think at this point you can really call anyone a favorite. With the game just being so new, people are figuring out strategies all the time. And the metagame is shifting. I just don't think there's really an environment where you can have a real, one person who's a tip top player. Now, the one thing that people are talking about is there's a bit of a race imbalance here. I shouldn't have used the word imbalance. That was actually bad.
Well, before you go into that, I just wanted to say that you can't really predict. Because Fruit Dealer, no one was expecting a Zerg to win, let alone Fruit Dealer to kind of came out of nowhere in the first GSL, and then the second GSL you had Nest T, who kind of came out of nowhere as well. He wasn't even on a sponsored team in the second GSL, so I don't think anyone placed their money on these two players, but these two players took it all the way to the very top. There's a lot of upsets. It really depends on the matches that you get. We saw Idra go out last time in his EVZ. Lots of randomness can happen in those brackets, and it just really depends on what races you're strong against that you play against. So, but if I was going to place my money, it's always going to be on a Zerg. As you guys who follow my StarCraft 2 channel know, always rooting for the Zerg.
Clearly for the Swarm, right? And that's actually good to go back to what you said. That's something that I was going to bring up as well. That here stateside, to bring relevance to any people who don't follow things overseas, Idra's been a big fan favorite for quite some time, and like you said, he was just knocked out, and that was a huge disappointment for a lot of his fans, I'm sure. But yeah, it goes back to what Bobby was saying, that you can't really play favorites at this point. It's too early in the game. Even build orders and how matchups are played out. It was so solidified how games were played in StarCraft 1 come the end of the 10 years. People kind of knew generally what to expect, but right now it's kind of all over the place as far as builds and everything. Now, I know you were talking about that bad word that we can't mention, imbalance. What were we looking at over there, Bobby?
Imba. Okay, we got 27 Zergs. This is out of 64 people. We have 27 Zergs, 24 Protoss, 24 Terran, and 12 Protoss, and one random, which is pretty awesome. Go that guy for getting in GSL playing random. Whoa. That's awesome. But you obviously have to look at Protoss and say, wow, they only have 12 people representing them in the GSL. Is that statistically significant, do you think?
Well, we saw in the first GSL that most people were Terran. It was people were joking that it was going to be like an all Terran top 8 or all Terran top 16. Even in the other tournaments, MLG and Intel Extreme Masters, people when Terran was we're not going to say imbalanced. When people were saying that. That it was pretty much everyone switched Terran. Of course, now we have the little one going back to Zerg, and we certainly see much more of a Zerg representation in this one compared to the first one. That's for sure. I'm just hoping that we get some good games. Really, I mean, I don't think that the race matchup and who makes it through. Like I said, a lot of things are random. A lot of things are not meant. A lot of things you'd think would just be taken for granted don't necessarily happen because there's so many good players there. Now, to bring up a good point on this, we do have Nada not placing at all. We do have Baby Bye Bye not placing at all. We do have Loner not placing at all. We do have OGS and Snare. I mean, the list goes on and on, segueing into another little discussion of players that are top players. Loner's considered one of the best, if not the best, in China. Nada was one of the best StarCraft 1 pro gamers, and OGS and Snare placed very, very high into the other GSLs, so at least the first one. So, and I think he was actually the one that knocked out Idra out of the first one, was it? Might be wrong, but yeah. So everything's up in the air. So I don't think it means much of anything. Be honest.
Yeah, fair enough. And how about you, Bobby? Any thoughts on what we just covered there? Or?
I pretty much agree with everything you just said. And it could even be a situation where the better players are just favoring playing Zerg over Protoss. I mean, it could simply be that. So I don't think there's any reason to look at this as racial imbalance yet. We need just more examples. And I got to throw in, I forgot to mention Liquid Jinro, who just won MLG Dallas.
How could you
also made it? I totally forgot Jinro. I'm so sorry, Jinro.
Unbelievable.
I actually talked to him.
So happy. Yeah, awesome. I'm so happy that Jinro got through because he had 2. He did not place in the first 2, and I was disappointed. I know that guy. He went all the way out there and then didn't place, and it's just like it must be crushing. I feel bad for all those guys when they got knocked out, even if I don't even like Terran or Protoss on that particular game. So
how many. There were so many foreigners that were actually within one game of getting in the round of 64. It was I might be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure it was In Control, Kiwi Kaki, Huck, and Select. Mm-hmm. At least those people were literally one game away from qualifying. Yeah. So we could have even seen a lot more foreigners in the GSL. It's pretty exciting.
And I think worldwide, that's kind of something that wasn't expected. We kind of assumed when beta was going on and we had all the tournaments here stateside and then there was all the tournaments overseas, everyone just assumed that once the game came out and everything merged together that just everything on the Western Hemisphere would just be crushed basically. But that definitely, like you said, we're on the cusp of that. We're not too far away, and I guess Idra is kind of a shining example of the fact that we can have competitive Westerners compete in StarCraft 2. Well, certainly. All right, well, let's move on. Following the pro scene, we have some more news here. It seems that GOM TV is going to be unionizing some StarCraft 2 action here. So it's the StarCraft 2 Association is the name of that. And Bobby, I know that you had some coverage on that as well. So you want mind going into detail about that?
Yeah, it's the least creative name for an association. It's literally called StarCraft 2 Association.
Yeah.
Basically what it is, if you were following the Brood War scene at all, there was a organization called KESPA, Korean Esports Players Association, that ruled over all the players and the teams and managers and coaches and all that stuff, kind of with an iron fist, and a lot of people really didn't like KESPA as an organization. But one is, because StarCraft 2 is a new game, there's a new one forming, and this one is under GOM TV or GRETEX rule, and all the players from the big teams in Korea, Prime, OGS, TSL, teams like that, they all have players and coaches that are going to be on panels, and they'll oversee make sure players are treated right and all this stuff. So this may be a big story in the future, just seeing how this organization is basically going to treat their players.
Yeah, and I know that there's lots of jokes and talks about how the StarCraft 2 scene, or just the StarCraft scene period, is over there, and people slaving away for 12 hours a day without bathroom or food breaks. So the fact that there's this kind of emphasis, and I think that kind of harkens back to the fact that everything in general when it comes to the competitive esports is taking more of a serious turn. I mean, and this even goes further back into the fact that gaming is becoming more and more relevant as an accepted media among people, and the fact that we're having a unionization for StarCraft 2 players really goes into that. You have any thoughts on that there, David?
Yeah, I was just thinking about our last topic and this one. The one thing that's really stopping, I think, esports from going worldwide is basically that it's in Korea and you have to be in Korea for the big money prizes. So part of the reason why we don't see a lot of foreigners over there is that you have to be on a sponsored team to get in. But if you live in Korea, you can just go down to the local, to where the GSL is, and just play. So anyone can get in over there as long as you live there, and it's not that difficult. But for someone to come from the United States or from Europe, that could be several $1,000 investment. Then you have to find some place to live, and it's just difficult. So I think the reason why you see, I don't know percentage, but you see a majority of the players in the GSL